This tutorial was brought to you thanks to the supporters on the screen. Check out TAPgiles.com to find more Dreams resources, donate to support my work, or engage my services to get private instruction or help on a project one-on-one. Here I'm investigating MM's sunset mood contraption, trying out different ways of doing things, minor improvements, and giving tips along the way. Let's make the background of this chip darker. So I usually use dark blue, and then the wires that are generally yellow stand out a lot more. So there's an emitter. Ooh. What is it emitting? Maybe it's emitting the paint or something. It is. So it's actually emitting that paint. Every just once. That's interesting. Because what you could do is, instead of emitting that like that, just wire into the power, and then you don't need that. So it's showing now, but if we so you can see the dust motes, and then when you grab that, it disappears and it appears again. So that should be okay. So I'll tweak the paint and turn it off, and I'll add a keyframe to turn it on, and power that with the this output is basically saying that the effects should be on, which is why it's going into all these gadgets. So that's fine, and then you can actually give this some slow power up and slow power down, so it's less kind of jarring. That, and do that, and then slowly disappear. This is because if I use a slider and wire that into the power of the painting, then it actually affects the opacity of the painting. So at full, then it's full opacity. If I do that, it's more obvious. If I power it full, then it's full opacity, and as I give it less power, it's got less opacity. So the same thing is happening with this keyframe, where it's powering it up slowly and powering it down slowly, which is kind of cool. If we turn off preview invisibility, you can actually see all these little effects that are floating around, and they're just like really subtle painting effects. So it's got just these strokes of in the painting, and then you can adjust the start and end points like that. And because it has these fall offs, if I do that, so this is the end point, and you can tell it to fade out at the end point or not. And that's the same for the start point, so this will be the start point. You can set it to kind of fade out, which actually kind of makes those flecks smaller and less opaque as it gets towards the end. And then this part is to just make it really sparse, so it was really low, I think. So all these kind of animate on a per Fleck basis to give you kind of a general kind of fluffy motes of dust flopping about the air kind of thing. But then you have animation speed, which makes it go along in one direction as well. But if you added ruffle, that's like if I show you full flex like that, then when you add ruffle, it makes each of the flecks kind of twist in a random way to like more and more extent as you go up, and then negative reduces it. You can actually use the style mode if you use ruffle with the volume brush. So normally you can hover over something and it will give that whole object more ruffle. If I use the volume brush, then I can just say, just give that area more ruffle. So if I try that same thing on here and use ruffle, you can see it's just, I guess it's just on or off. So that part in the middle is ruffled and the rest isn't. So if I gave that some playback speed, the flecks are moving along this line, but they're going flat on the end parts where we haven't ruffled it, and then it kind of transitions into being ruffled over here. But then you can reduce that ruffle by giving this negative ruffle, which affects like just certain parts that have been added, had ruffle added to it, like that. So now they're completely smooth. But then you could like animate this or something during gameplay, and then above 0% affects all of the flecks like that. So if you had that on duplicate around camera, then turn down the fleck density to very small, it's flat, and then gets all ruffled, and then gets flat again, but all within one fleck because we're reducing it down to one fleck like this. And you can add those fade in and fade out, and then instead of it suddenly appearing, it kind of gets smaller and less opaque as it goes towards the end. Now you can clearly see all of the repetitions are actually doing exactly the same thing, but if you go into here and turn time offset up, then that makes each of the strokes animate a different random offset to this for this playback speed. So while this is starting, another one will be halfway through, for example.
Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to get 5 hours of tutorials early for $3. Here's a preview of what you can learn if you choose to become a supporter.